vamos lá, a gente vai convidar aqui agora ao palco essa nossa convidada especial para fechar aqui esse nosso conteúdo do dia de hoje. Ela é nutricionista, é gerente de desenvolvimento de negócios da FODMAP Friendly, uma entidade pioneira e referência internacional na certificação de produtos voltados para esse segmento. Vamos receber aqui no palco, então, a Sarah Lawless. Sarah, welcome.
Okay. Am I on? Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name's Sarah, and I've come all the way from Melbourne, Australia, to present to you navigating the FODMAP landscape, the commercial potential, the market potential, and product innovation. I would just like to thank BioFAC for having us here. We've had the most amazing time in Brazil. Brazilians are beautiful people. So yeah, thank you for making us feel so welcome. Thank you to Felipe in the box for translating my presentation. So let's get into it. So just an overview of what we'll be running through today. The first half of the presentation is going to be aimed at the marketing experts in the room. So this is so that people working in marketing can understand a little bit about irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, about the low FODMAP diet, which is the management treatment strategy for managing IBS. We'll get to learn a little bit about getting into the mindset of people that suffer with IBS, how they shop, the kind of consumer that you will be marketing to, and all about the market. So the global potential with this huge market that is the IBS market. Part two, towards the end, will be aimed at the product developers. So we'll be talking about how to make a low FODMAP product. So what ingredients are low FODMAP, ways that you can reduce the FODMAP content of a food. So something that is high FODMAP, we make it low FODMAP. And together we'll be making a low FODMAP Brazilian croquette, or a coxinha, which I tried the other day and it was delicious. But first, just a little bit about us at FODMAP Friendly. So we're a certification company for low FODMAP products. We were founded in 2012, co-founded by our director, Tim, who's sitting over there. Say hi, Tim. He loves the spotlight. And Dr. Sue Shepherd. She was one of the lead researchers into the low FODMAP diet, which was created in Melbourne. We were the first certification for low FODMAP foods in the world. And we were designed to be the bridge between low FODMAP brands and the consumer. So we help the consumer to find low FODMAP products. And our slogan is eat with confidence. It allows people following this diet to eat with confidence. And as you will come to find, this is an incredibly difficult and confusing diet. So yeah, strap yourselves in. We have certified more than 100 brands currently on our list, and over 1,000 products certified globally. We're a global certification. But since inception, we have certified and tested many hundreds more brands and thousands of more products. We are leaders in FODMAP testing and education, and we do this through our app, through our websites, through social media and such. And on showcase here are some of our certified brands. So here at the expo, we have Essential Nutrition, and we have Positive Co. So that is the Atal de Castaña brand, Possible, and Plant Power. And at the end of this talk, we'll have some samples from the two companies that you can try. These are both really well-known brands here in Brazil, and they were the pioneers for certifying low FODMAP products in Brazil. We started in Australia. This spread to America. This then spread to Europe. And in the last few years, we've noticed this change occurring here in Brazil. These are the pioneers for low FODMAP certification and low FODMAP products in Brazil. And we're here during this trip to meet more brands and to help try to get more people involved in this growing movement happening right here in Brazil. These guys also join the ranks of some other really famous and well-known brands. You see Kellogg's, Cornflakes, Campbell's Soup Company in America with their Prego tomato sauce, and other large multinationals such as Lactalis, Danone, Kerry in Canada. These are large multinationals, Nestle as well, involved in the certification worldwide. This is our app. So we know people don't just eat packaged foods. They also eat fresh foods. They like to cook at home with fresh ingredients. So in addition to testing and certifying packaged products, we've also gone and done our own research, our own FODMAP testing at FODMAP Friendly for individual ingredients. So like this green apple here, we've tested this apple for its FODMAP content, and you can see apples are high in FODMAP, so this fails against the FODMAP threshold criteria or the limits, which we will come to. But you can see there is a small amount at the bottom there that you can consume. Inside the app, you'll also find a database of FODMAP-trained experts. And you can see the map of South America. We already have dietitians in South America who are trained in treating patients with IBS and with the low FODMAP diet. You'll also find more information on there, frequently asked questions, and our new feature, the recipe maker. So let's start. Part one, this is for the marketers in the room, understanding IBS and the low FODMAP diet. Now, if there's one statistic or take-home message that I want you to take home from today's talk, is this statistic. 1 in 7 people suffer with irritable bowel syndrome. This is a huge, huge amount of people. We're talking 30 million Brazilians or 1.17 billion people worldwide. This is your new market. If you work in this space, this is your new market. In addition, there is some research to suggest that it's even as many as 1 in 3 people suffering with IBS. And the difference between this statistic, 1 in 7, 1 in 3, is people not seeking a diagnosis. So that lack of awareness around the condition. And so that is the point of why we're here, is trying to raise awareness about this condition. And I like to compare this with celiac disease. Everybody's heard about celiac disease. Everybody's heard about the gluten-free diet. But we compare this. This is Australian data, collated data. We see some Australian data suggesting 1 in 3 Australians are suffering with IBS. So that's that 30% along the bottom there. Compared with celiac disease, about 1 to 2%, or the equivalent of 1 in every 133 people being diagnosed with celiac disease. So why are we talking about celiac disease and the gluten-free diet? Why aren't we talking about irritable bowel syndrome and the low FODMAP diet? And understanding the condition will help us to understand why that is the case. Celiac disease is an autoimmune condition. If you are a celiac, you consume gluten. This can cause long-term damage to the intestinal lining. When it comes to irritable bowel syndrome, if someone with IBS is consuming FODMAPs, there is no permanent damage that is caused. And so for this reason, people can think it's not as serious. So we understand a little bit more about this condition. We'll understand why that is the case. So IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, is a disturbance of the gut-brain interaction. So we found research has shown there is a connection between the gut and the brain, and this is via the vagus nerve. People with IBS have a disturbance with this messaging. And as a result of this, they end up with hypersensitivity, so they're more sensitive to pain in the gut. And they also have altered gut motility. So this is how quickly food transits through the intestines. The symptoms are therefore characterized by pain, so this hypersensitivity, diarrhea, constipation, that altered gut motility, as well as symptoms of gas and bloating and distension. There is no cure for IBS. There's no magic drug, no magic pill that you can take to manage your IBS or to treat or cure IBS. Management focuses on symptom control, and we do that with pharmacological methods, psychological methods, so things like meditation, yoga, again, remembering this is a disorder of the gut-brain interaction. But most effective is through diet. About 3/4 of people with IBS will respond to a low FODMAP diet. So what are FODMAPs? FODMAPs are fermentable carbohydrates. These are short-chain carbohydrates that resist digestion in the human digestive system. When we eat FODMAPs, they travel into the stomach, into the small intestine. In the small intestine, this is where most food is absorbed. FODMAPs are not digested or absorbed. This is normal. This is normal for people with IBS, people without IBS. What happens is they travel into the large colon or the large intestine, and two things occur. The first is they are fermented. So the bacteria, the healthy bacteria that live inside our gut, love FODMAPs. They start to feed on those FODMAPs. This is food for them. These are undigested by the human system. They love them. So they feed on this, and as a result, this causes gas as a byproduct. So this gas causes that bloating, that distension. Remember, people with IBS are more sensitive to this. So they experience pain when this occurs, this fermentation. The second thing that occurs, FODMAPs draw in water. They have an osmotic effect. So the intestine swells up like a balloon. And again, this affects people with IBS for altered gut motility. Things are moving through more quickly and can cause things like diarrhea and more pain. The low FODMAP diet is the recommended treatment for people who find triggers to FODMAPs or in the diet with IBS. Research has suggested and shown, lots of research into this diet suggests that people with IBS, 50 to 80% find improvements in symptoms following the low FODMAP diet. This is not a fad diet. This is not a trendy diet. It is a medical prescribable diet. It is recognized by health organizations, by gastroenterological bodies around the world. It is a prescribable diet, and it's based in evidence. So there's 3 phases to the diet. Once you have received your diagnosis of IBS, we move into the first phase, which is the elimination phase. The point of the elimination phase is we reduce or we remove all FODMAPs. We get rid of all FODMAPs in the diet. The point of this is to bring your symptoms to a baseline. Some people don't know what are their triggers. So we reduce this to the baseline. Once the symptoms are controlled, we then start to reintroduce one FODMAP group at a time. Some people will trigger to the O group. Some people will trigger to the D group, the M group, or the P group. So we're testing these different FODMAPs to see which triggers you trigger to. Once we know which are your triggers, we then move to the personalization phase or phase 3. And this phase is where we reintroduce the FODMAPs that you don't trigger to bring the variety back into the diet. And we work through ways to manage those FODMAPs that you do trigger to. So what are FODMAPs? FODMAPs is an acronym, and it stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. In the O group, oligosaccharides, we have 2 FODMAPs, fructan oligosaccharides and galacto-oligosaccharides. In the D group, we have the disaccharide lactose, which we're all familiar with. In the M group, we have the monosaccharide fructose. And in the P group, polyols 2, we have sorbitol and mannitol that we test for, but we also have some other polyols there you can see. It's important to remember that FODMAPs are carbohydrates. They're not fat, they're not protein. Pure fat, pure protein is completely FODMAP free. So these are carbohydrates. FODMAPs are plant foods, with the exception of lactose being the coming from mammal milk. We'll just go through a few examples of the foods that are high in FODMAPs. So to give you a bit of an idea of the variety of foods that this diet covers, it's a lot. In the oligosaccharides, things like onion, garlic, wheat, ripe bananas, inulin is a common additive in food. You've got your nuts, legumes, soybeans. Imagine following this diet as a vegan or vegetarian. In the lactose group, we have milk, cream, fresh cheese. In the monosaccharides, the fructose-containing foods are things like honey, found in lots of different fruits. We can also find it in concentrated forms of tomato, as well as sweeteners such as agave or high fructose corn syrup. And finally, in the P group, sorbitol, mannitol, and some of these others on the right-hand side. These can be either found naturally occurring in things like mushrooms or certain fruits, but they're also found in your artificial sweeteners. So you'll find these in products like diet or low sugar products. So imagine a life without all of these amazing things. This point of this slide is to showcase that this diet covers a wide variety of foods. We're not talking about just the yummy, delicious things like pizza and ice cream, but we're talking about important foods for a healthy, balanced diet. We're talking about fruits and vegetables that provide fiber, vitamins, minerals. We're talking about dairy products, great source of calcium. We're talking about cereals, grains, legumes, a great source of fiber and B vitamins. So it covers a lot of foods, and it's very difficult for people to wrap their head around what foods contain FODMAPs. Let's make this diet more confusing. It's important to remember this is a low FODMAP diet, not a no FODMAP diet. So there is some research to suggest that people with IBS can actually tolerate a small amount of FODMAPs before they develop symptoms. What that means is there is a threshold or a limit that you can consume of FODMAPs before you can develop symptoms. That makes things even more confusing. Another thing that makes it more confusing, different foods will contain different concentrations or potencies of FODMAPs. And the example here is garlic and wheat. So you can see here garlic, we're comparing garlic and wheat. They both contain the FODMAP fructans. With garlic, you can only have 1 gram or under 1 gram of garlic before it hits the threshold. Garlic is very, very highly concentrated in FODMAPs. Whereas wheat or bread, you can have almost 2 slices of bread before it reaches this threshold. So we've already talked about how many different foods contain FODMAPs, and then keep in mind they all have different concentrations. Let's make this diet more confusing. There is something called FODMAP stacking. FODMAPs accumulate. That means that I've identified the FODMAP containing foods here. On their own, they might be small enough to be low FODMAP. But when you start adding them together in a single product or a varied meal, this adds up or stacks up to become high FODMAP. So this coxinha It might be low FODMAP, depending on those amounts. The general consumer would not know whether this product is suitable for them or not. They can see onion, garlic, wheat, but in what amounts? So it's not clear to people reading labels whether something is high or low FODMAP. So you're left with a really confused consumer. There's lots of different foods that contain it. They have all these different various concentrations, and then they add up in a product. This is such a confusing diet. And that's where we come in. And the point of the certification is to remove the guesswork, to make it easier for people to quickly identify a low FODMAP product for them. It's important to note that the certification covers all FODMAP groups, and it certifies foods that are suitable in all 3 phases of the diet. So what this certification offers people is increased trust in the product, that it is suitable for them on their prescribed diet. The next few slides are just to get into the mindset of people suffering with IBS. This statistic is really sad. This comes from a 2018 IBS Global Impact Report. People with IBS would be willing to give up 25% of their remaining life to be symptom-free. This is so sad. This gives you an insight into how difficult it is, how isolating this condition can be to live with this. Between 40 to 60% of people with IBS will present with psychological symptoms. This is a disorder of the gut-brain interaction. So people are more likely to suffer from stress, anxiety, depression. It takes about 4 years to get a diagnosis of IBS. It is an incredibly long and arduous process before people end up with their diagnosis. Once you get to the end of that, you then have to follow this diet. It's a lot. So these people have been through the system, chewed up and spat out by the healthcare system. And finally, 46% of people with IBS will have skipped work or school as a result of their symptoms. This is some FODMAP friendly research. So 10 years in the business gives us a bit of an insight into the IBS consumer and how they shop. And you know, these last few slides help to explain this. So what we know is that the IBS consumer is loyal. 90% will buy a product again if it doesn't cause them digestive stress. If they find a product that works for them, they will keep coming back. It's too hard to find another product that is suitable for them. The IBS consumer will spend more. Our research shows that people will spend more money to remove a negative than they will to gain a positive. That means if you have a product that is saying that you will give you glowing, beautiful glowing skin, compared with a product that is saying, I won't cause you gas, I won't cause you pain, I won't cause you bloating, people will spend more on the second product than the first product. They will spend more money to reduce the negative than they will to gain the positive. And so data shows, on average, they will spend about 2.5 times more than the average consumer. And finally, the IBS consumer is engaged. 95% of people are looking specifically for low FODMAP foods. These are a group of people who have been put through the system, chewed up and spat back out. They want to get to the point of how to treat their condition. So they're looking for the low FODMAP option. They know there's no alternative to this treatment. This is the recommended treatment for IBS. This is compared with gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan. They're looking specifically for low FODMAP. So gives you a bit of an insight. This is a group of people who are in the health food aisles. They're in online forums. They're in the deepest, darkest parts of the internet looking for products that are suitable for them. So they're very engaged consumers. We refer to these people as the blue dot consumer. This is the kind of consumer that is reading labels. They're researching products. Now, I'm a dietitian. I'm not going to pretend I'm a marketer or a salesperson. But what I have learned is that there are 3 ways to increase sales. The first is increased penetration. So that is targeting your new and light users, people that don't use or buy your products very often. What the certification offers is a signal, a sign to let people know that they can buy from you. This certification now opens you up to a huge market. Remember, 1 in 7 people. So you can increase your penetration with this certification. The second is increased adjusted weight on purchase. In English, this is AWOP. This basically means, another way to increase sales is increase the price. We know people with IBS will spend more money. And the third is that people is inter-purchase interval, or IPI in English. This is the period of time between people buying one product to the next. Remember that previous statistic, people are loyal. So if they find a product that works for them, they will come back and buy it. And we help to drive down inter-purchase interval, how quickly people come back to buy your product, through our various marketing and social media promotions of your products. So you've got this amazing holy trinity of sales. This is a marketer's dream. You've got a huge market, 1 in 7 people, a lot of them. They will spend more money and they will keep coming back to buy your product. This is the best scenario. We'll talk a little bit about the low FODMAP market. So this is a report from 2025, earlier this year, and it's showing the projected growth of the IBS market. It's currently estimated to be worth $6.9 billion US, and it's projected to rise to $16.2 billion US. And this is coming with a growth rate of 8.9%. This upward trend or interest or growth in the low FODMAP diet is echoed in the scientific community. This is a research paper that shows research that has been conducted into the low FODMAP diet since 2007. Millions of dollars are being invested into the research of this diet, of this condition, irritable bowel syndrome. So there's money being invested into understanding this better, into FODMAP testing. And this is from the same paper. So where in the world this research is being conducted? We started in Australia, it spread to the US, it moved to Europe, and you can see yourselves here, Brazil, on the map being represented. A small amount. Some of these papers were published right here in São Paulo. This is, you can see you're the only South American country that is doing research into the low FODMAP diet, and it's no coincidence that we're here in Brazil speaking to you. But really, what you care about as a marketer is the consumer interested? And the answer is yes. So this 2024 report, this is over a quarter, TikTok report, showed that there had been 61 million views for terms such as hashtag low FODMAP diet, hashtag IBS, hashtag FODMAPs. And this had more than 1,000% quarter-on-quarter growth. This on the right, you can see as well the Google trends into people searching the term FODMAP since the beginning in 2004. So yes, the consumer is interested, and this is, again, continuing to go upwards. The more that people talk about IBS, the more we reduce the stigma around IBS, And here are some famous Brazilians, Yasmin Brunet, Victoria's Secret model, I think, Fernanda Paes, actress, a YouTuber, VTube, and a singer, Poker, all have IBS and have spoken about their experience with IBS. And your local news outlets are also reporting on this. So these are some local news articles, and even this hilarious headline about the singer Poker, who was hospitalized for her IBS because she was too embarrassed to fart in front of her boyfriend. So the more we can talk about this, the more we can reduce the stigma and make this a normal, something normal to talk about. So that's part one complete. So that's for the marketers. Now we get into the sort of research and development side of things. So how do we make a low FODMAP product, or what makes a low FODMAP product? And there's two ways that you can make a low FODMAP product. Just choosing low FODMAP ingredients, or using processing methods or techniques to reduce the FODMAP content of a high FODMAP food. So let's start with choosing low FODMAP ingredients. We'll run through each group of low FODMAP ingredients. So in fruits and vegetables, we have the local indigenous fruit, acai is low FODMAP, firm bananas, we have pineapple, potato, fresh tomato to a certain amount. We have Brazil nuts, are low FODMAP, peanuts, macadamias, almonds, lentils to a certain amount, and this is why we have the asterisks here. And then a lot of commonly used grains and cereals and flours here in Brazil, things like cassava, tapioca, corn, oats, rice. These are low FODMAP. And these are your gluten-free grains as well. Gluten is a protein, but often you find what comes with one comes with the other. So gluten-containing flours also often contain FODMAPs. In the disaccharide group, we're talking about lactose-free milk, milk alternatives such as almond milk, rice milk, soy milk using a protein isolate. We'll come to that. You've got hard cheeses are naturally lower in FODMAP, some Brazilian cheeses, as well as some yogurts. In the monosaccharides, we have certain fruits, papaya, melon, lemons, oranges, pineapple, strawberries. We have sweeteners like maple syrup, rice syrup, stevia. We have, as well in the polyols group, other sweeteners such as erythritol, sucralose, also used commonly here in Brazil, your non-sort of polyol sweeteners. There are a few things that can naturally influence the FODMAP content of foods, and this is what makes this quite interesting. So variety. Button mushrooms are higher in mannitol than oyster mushrooms. So you choose the lower FODMAP mushroom when making a low FODMAP product. Whether something is ripe or not also affects the FODMAP level. So ripe, mature bananas are higher in FODMAPs than unripe or green bananas. So choosing this unripe to make a low FODMAP product. Where you source your ingredients. Research shows that wheat grown in Australia is lower in FODMAPs than wheat grown in America. So the source of your ingredients, the soil content, remember these are plant foods. So where that soil, the plant is grown in soil, the weather conditions that affect the growth of that plant will affect the FODMAP content. And the part of the plant, interestingly, the white part of spring onions is high in FODMAPs. You can use the green part, which is lower in FODMAPs, and still get that flavor. So this is the first way that you can make a low FODMAP product, choosing these ingredients. The other way is by processing methods. So we can start with a high FODMAP ingredient and turn it into a low FODMAP ingredient. So the first way to do that is with soaking. You can start with nuts, legumes, chickpeas, beans, soaking them in water will reduce the FODMAP content. FODMAPs are water soluble. They are carbohydrates that will leach out into the water. So you reduce the FODMAP content of that nut or that bean, you throw away the water, you're left with a lower FODMAP nut or bean. And this is found in things like canned chickpeas to be lower in FODMAPs. Infusion, again, capitalizing on the fact that FODMAPs are water soluble. They will leach out into water. They won't leach out into oil. So we can infuse oil by placing onion and garlic into the oil. The FODMAPs will remain inside the onion and garlic, but the flavor compounds will leach out into the oil. You remove the garlic and the onion, the solid material, and you're left with a flavored olive oil. So you can still enjoy those really important flavorful foods like onion and garlic. Ultrafiltration or isolation. This is a really important one when it comes to proteins. So we've seen a lot of supplements here at the Expo using whey protein that contains lactose, using vegan proteins such as pea, soy, nuts. These contain FODMAPs. What happens with ultrafiltration is that we are removing or isolating the protein. By isolating the protein, we're leaving the carbohydrates, we're leaving the FODMAPs. And this is where purity is really important. So we see a protein isolate is lower FODMAP than a protein concentrate. You can get 100% pure protein. This is not going to contain FODMAPs. You get a 90% purity. That 10% might still contain some FODMAPs. In some concentrates, it's 80% purity. So you're more likely to be left with FODMAPs with a concentrate protein. So remember, protein isolates, lower FODMAP. This is a really simple one using enzymes. So lactase, we apply to milk or dairy products. Lactose gets broken down into galactose and glucose, which makes it easier to digest. Fermentation, this is really common in sourdough bread. So during the traditional methods of sourdough bread making, this bread undergoes a long ferment of about 8 to 10 hours. There's FODMAPs that are found in wheat or gluten-containing products. When we ferment that dough, that fermentation of the FODMAPs, it happens in the bakery. It doesn't happen in the gut. So people can consume sourdough breads because the FODMAPs have already been fermented. And finally, the most simple one is to add glucose. Interestingly, fructose only becomes a FODMAP when it is found in excess of glucose. This is to do with the way that we absorb fructose and glucose. It's much easier for the body to absorb when we have a 1-to-1 ratio of glucose and fructose. When we've run out of glucose and we're left with just fructose, this absorption is not as effective, and that can lead to fructose remaining in excess inside the intestines. It then travels to the large intestine and becomes fermented. So the addition of a small amount of glucose can help to balance out and bring back that 1-to-1 ratio and not cause the issue with excess fructose. So we'll come back to our coxinha. So we identified the foods that contain FODMAPs. So how do we make this a low FODMAP coxinha? So with choosing a different kind of wheat, these, like I said, gluten-free wheats are often also low in FODMAPs. So using a rice, potato, corn, tapioca, cassava will be a better option to keep this low FODMAP. We can switch out the milk to be lactose-free milk, so using that enzymatic digestion process. With the onion, we have the option of using the infused olive oil with onion, or we can choose the green part of the spring onion or the green part of the leek, which will be lower in FODMAP, but still have the flavor or the taste of onion. When it comes to garlic, we can use the, again, infused oil or the garlic scape or the stem, which is the green part of garlic. And finally, the tomato can be high in fructose in a concentrated form, but the small addition of glucose will make this low FODMAP. And so now our coxinha is low FODMAP and suitable for certification. We can promote and market this coxinha as FODMAP friendly and suitable for people with IBS. So that's it. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. If you work for a food company that is thinking about breaking into this market, this is my email. We can talk about how we can make your products low FODMAP. Thanks.
Muito obrigada, Sara, pela apresentação. Thank you very much. We have a gift for you.
Oh, thank you.